Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Talking Elite Fitness. Sean Woodland, Tommy Marquez, and Lauren Khalil here. We're going to be bringing in the two-time National Tactical Games champion, Jacob Heppner, here pretty soon. That's exciting. Always a pleasure to talk to him.
Is that the official title? Is it like Grand Poobah?
I don't know what he is, but
something?
the dude is supremely talented, really fit, and he's won that competition twice. And Lauren, you were there to see it.
It was incredible, especially seeing all of the crossover from CrossFit into the sport of the tactical games. I think it was super interesting. And we'll talk to Jacob a little bit about it. But so many of those people either are affiliate owners, belong to an affiliate, do a hybrid of CrossFit training with tactical games training. So it's a really cool sport. And the community, I mean, I can't speak highly enough about how inclusive it was. Everyone's helping each other. I mean, the athletes would give their pistol to the person next to them if somebody needed help. That's how giving they are. And it was cool. Really cool to see an experience.
Today's episode is presented by Strongest. This is an app that you can download for free. Okay. This is all you got to do is go download the app.
For free.
.com. If you want to go up to the upper left-hand part of the screen there, if you're watching this, you can scan that QR code. It'll take you to the website. It's strongest.app. You can download it for Apple right now. Not available yet for Android, but I think they are working on that. Strongest helps you attain a higher level of fitness and achieve more goals by reverse engineering the desired end state of each workout and delivering step-by-step training guidance to ensure you reach that end state. It's the only app with personalized pacing guidance that reverse engineers a timeline to guarantee that you achieve a specific goal in service to your training plan. So what you can do is if you're doing a workout like Fran, all the benchmark workouts are in this app. All the hero workouts are in this app. You can tell it, okay, I want to hit Fran in 5 minutes. That's going to be I want to do that, or 4.5, whatever your goal is. And you can tell it how you want to break it up each set. And the app will give you a pace that you need to maintain in order to hit that. It tells you exactly how long you need to work, when you need to rest. It's awesome stuff. They also have all kinds of workout programs on there. Workouts you can select if you're on the road, if you're someone who works out at home, all kinds of great plans. They got like Zombie Fit. Trains you to survive the zombie apocalypse, which is fantastic.
It's very straightforward training. It's stuff that you can do at home as well, which I really like.
It gives you a lot of great data. Like you can pair it to your Apple Watch if you have that.
And it'll learn from your data as well.
It's a really cool app. And Matthew Russell, the guy who put it together, is still working on this thing and just wants as many people to get a hold of it as they can right now. Give him their feedback so he can continue to make this thing better. So go check it out. Strongest.app. Download it for Apple right now. Again, an Android version I think is being worked on, but it's free. Check it out. There's a lot of cool stuff that you can do with it. We're just trying to help him get the word out. So we'll leave the QR code up there for a little bit before we bring Jacob Heppner on here, but it's strongest.app. And check it out, man. There's just a lot of fun bells and whistles and things that you can do there, pacing workouts, choosing workouts. And you got a benchmark coming up in your regular class. You can figure out how to PR it. It'll tell you how to do it.
Give you pacing and everything.
Fantastic stuff. Strongest.app. Okay, now that is out of the way, let's bring in our guest for today. He is, again, the two-time National Tactical Games champion, Jacob. Brought his own intro music.
I love it. My drum skills came to use there.
Fantastic. How you doing, sir?
Good. How are you guys?
Oh, we're wonderful, man. We're wonderful.
Well, we would be better if Winston was here. What the heck, Jacob? That's why we brought you on.
I was in the back door backstage, and I was like, man, I should grab him. He's right. See him right there? Right.
Oh, yeah.
He's relaxed.
What up, Winston?
Hey, Cheech. Oh,
here he comes.
Okay, show was made.
Yeah, we got dog sightings. Fantastic. So for people who don't know, you just competed at the Tactical Games, won it again. And this is something that is really that sport has really started taking off for the past couple of years. I think it's probably where CrossFit was, I don't know, maybe 13 years ago, something like that. How did you get into it?
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, so it's actually currently, I'll give the sport its kudos for what it's do, is it is actually currently the fastest growing shooting sport, shooting genre sport by a lot. It makes by quite a bit. It is very fast growing, at least in the shooting sport industry. I don't know the comparison for the fitness side of things because it's not really, while it is a fitness sport, you're not going to have a fitness person show up and be like, I want to compete, and then be like, oh, I need a gun. I can't compete anymore kind of perspective. So it is a shooting sport for sure, but it is the fastest growing.
Huh. So, I know that you have always been a fan of shooting sports and just shooting in general. So it seemed like, at least from my perspective, that once you started stepping away from competing in CrossFit, this was kind of like a natural marriage of the two.
Yeah. Yeah. So I had made a decision like in 2020. 2020 was a weird year for a lot of different reasons. And I was yelled at because I wasn't wearing a mask while I was biking. And so I decided, hey, you know what? Like, I'll finish this season out, but there are definitely some other sports out there. Because, like, in the grand scheme of things, like, CrossFit really prepares you for stinking everything, if I'm being honest. You know, you're not going to be, like, well, CrossFit is like, I'm not going to go compete in a marathon and win, but I'm not going to get last. I can go do an Ironman. I won't win, but I won't get last prospectively is kind of the concept behind it. It's probably a bad example. But I really decided I can try other sports, and this sport had piqued my interest for a few years. And Tommy's correct. I had shot before and owned firearms, but it wasn't something I competed in. So it's like saying, it's a good example. It's like saying, oh, Tommy, you drive a car, you could probably be a race car driver. And you quickly realize, at first you're like, oh yeah, I do drive a Prius, man, I can rock this race car track. and then you realize it's a whole different ballgame.
How dare you, Prius? I drive a Subaru. Thank you very much.
Hey, in my defense, I own a Prius. So I had shot. Grew up shooting most of my life, and that's a completely different ballgame when you start competing. That's kind of a really good example. Man, what a great metaphor, Jacob, with racing and driving a Prius. And so I'm going to use that in the future. But quickly realized really quickly that, hey, this is not the same thing. And so I'm going to have to teach myself how to race, right? How to shoot competitively. And that was a long road, and I'm not even remotely close to that. But the beauty of what CrossFit teaches you is if Lauren decides, does the open workout, does the games, and figures out, man, I freaking suck at rowing. Like, she can absolutely go off and get a CrossFit coach. And some CrossFit coaches are going to be really good. Like, like the Ben Bergerons in the past were really kind of like a one-stop shop for a lot of help. But most athletes nowadays will go find spokes in a wheel, right? They'll say, okay, well, if I want to be a fully robust athlete that's able to accomplish a lot of different genres of our sport, I need to find spokes in this wheel to support me and make me a balanced athlete. So Lauren will probably go off and find a Chris Henshaw or someone, a Shane Farmer, someone who's really going to help her out in that aerobic capacity area. In this case, in this instance, rowing. And so that's exactly what CrossFit had taught us throughout many, many years. Olympic lifting coach, swimming coach, yada, 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 you name it. And so I did the same thing when I came to this sport. As I said, wow, Heppner, you suck at half this sport, like badly. So let's go find some people who can make you suck less, essentially.
Oh,
well, and kind of speaking to that, I mean, the first year that you competed with tactical games, like you said, you had training with shooting. You obviously were an incredible athlete, but you can't be a mediocre shooter and a great athlete to have you carry through and be really good at the sport. So what was that learning curve, and what kind of coaching or programming, or how did you get to where you are to now you have 2 national titles?
Yeah, so solid question. So yeah, the running kind of staple line in the sport is you can't outrun your misses. Now, I would argue, usually everyone says it's like their line, like you can't outrun your misses. And usually I say, well, you can if you run really, really fast. I've done it a few times, or fitness really fast. It definitely a few times you can do it. But yes, correct. Overall, Lauren, like the people who are going to win, and it's very similar perspective to the CrossFit Games. Like the people who are going to win are going to be really good at, not really good. They're not going to be probably subject matter experts, because what happens when you get a subject matter expert in one area is they usually are going to suck in another area. So a solid, because I love examples of that is Jordan Troyan back in 2014. Smashes the swim, sucks at the overhead squat in the next workout, still places very well, but like he's a subject matter expert, right? He's an expert. He's too specialized in one area. And so for our sport, you're not going to see a guy who shows up who's phenomenal at shooting and sucks at fitness is going to do very well. And then vice versa. On the other polarization is you're not going to see someone like me who's really good at fitness and sucks at shooting. You're going to have someone who's kind of in between. They're not going to be mediocre at both, but they're going to be probably above average at both, and maybe one area that might be a little bit better. But overall, they're going to be probably average at both perspectives.
Before I ask this question, I have to say that Joe has let us know that now there is the strongest app available for the Android.
Oh,
yeah,
so good. 7. Sweet.
Awesome. All right, so download it for Android as well. How would you explain the tactical game season, to somebody who knows nothing about the sport?
Okay, so you guys, you're going to get tired of hearing this, but your audience is CrossFit. My background is CrossFit. So let's compare it to that. The current owner of the tactical games is a friend of mine. His name is Nick Thayer. Lauren, you met him. Awesome. Both him and his fiance, awesome individuals. The previous owner was Jared Halbert, who still competes in the sport, got 4th behind me at Nationals this year. But the original owner, and the person who started it, Tim, he actually was private security back in the day for, drumroll please, Greg Glassman. And so,
really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Our sport, learn something new every day, Lauren. You should hang out with me more. And so
I guess so.
Is very similar. Our sport is going to be very similar in that aspect, because he kind of took tenets from our sport, right? The sport we all know and love, and said, okay, well, how do I take this, but also get it, I'm not a huge fan of the word tactical, because it's not really super tactical. The name is stuck, but like, how do I take the CrossFit, the fitness perspective, and then somehow relate it back to a stress shooting environment where I can teach people like us, like people who are LE, like people who are in the mill department, and teach them to shoot better and move better when applied with fitness. And so because of that, the season looks very similar. Now, obviously, the CrossFit Games finalizes into July, beginning of August. Ours is a different perspective. We're going to end in the end of November, mostly because of winter time. But to lead into that looks kind of the same. We don't have the open quarterfinals, semifinals. We mainly have, let's take out the open completely and just say we only had regionals, and that's what it looks like. Okay. So we usually have, I think this upcoming year, we're going to have 11 regional events. Those events are going to be held across the continental United States. And you can go attend those events, and the top 5 in, I'm going to make it really easy for you guys. The top 5 in some divisions, Nationals doesn't have every division there, just like the same as the CrossFit Games doesn't have every division that competes there. But the top 5 in every division automatically gets an invite out to the Tactical Games Nationals, or CrossFit Games. And those invites actually do roll down. So it's kind of similar to like sanctionals back in the day. So if I go to a regional event in March this year in Arizona or wherever, and you guys all go, because I was already podium, I don't need an invite to next year's nationals. So if you want to say Tommy goes there and plays 6th, he's automatically got an invite because I've already got a slot. So it just rolls down from their perspective. So it's very similar in that aspect.
And it's just anybody can sign up, right? You just get the gear, show up.
Correct. Yeah, there's no requirement to sign up for regionals. They do run, the Tactical Games company does run some events that are, they call them skirmishes, pretty much, where it's kind of like an on-ramp course. So if Tommy's like, hey man, I want to do one, but like, I'm probably not going to show up to my first CrossFit competition not having done a CrossFit class before, which I totally understand. Then they have one-day events that are held around the continental United States that are just one-day events. They're not a competition. It's mostly fun. It's very teaching-oriented. So let's say I was running it. We'd have very similar stages that we would run at Tactical Games, but it's super laid back. It's, we're not here to score anything. We're here to mainly to teach. Whereas if you go to a regional event, you're there to compete. I mean, there are going to be some ROs, some judges there that will help you out, but it's mainly meant to like showcase what you practice leading into that event.
And then, so kind of taking that a step further in terms of what takes place at the actual event, how is the competition actually structured, scored? What does it look like? I guess in this comparison, like you show up to a CrossFit event, you're going to have multiple scored events, a mixture of CrossFit movements, and in many ways, whatever. If we do points per placing, lowest score wins. If we do a point adjusted system, then highest score wins. Yeah.
Yep. Good question. So it scored. I think the actual term Z score is actually wrong, but it scored. I always use the example as scored on a curve. So we're going to go to a competition. We're going to do a stage. Let's say, just make it really, really easy. We're going to go run a mile for time. That's a bad example, but I'll make it simple. We're going to run a mile for time, and the 4 of us are going to do it. I'm going to go off and run this mile, and let's say I run it in 8 minutes, okay? I'm going to run it in 8 minutes. Let's say Lauren runs it in 7. Tommy, you run it in 6. And Sean, you run it in 5.
Yeah.
Whoa, Sean
I
Butland.
mean, because people look at me and they say, that guy's a runner.
He's a runner, boy. He's a runner. He's a track star. So Sean obviously won the workout. Now, in CrossFit days past, and this is a really good idea. I wish CrossFit would do this because I actually really like this scoring. Mm-hmm. But in CrossFit days past, at the games, Sean gets 100 points. Tommy gets up with a 95. Lauren gets a 90, and I get a 90 or 80 something, or I'll say 85. Sometimes it's 86, depending upon the point spread. How we score is we base upon a curve. So it's always set upon the person that wins it and sets the pace, right? So Sean gets 100 points because he smashed it and he's got the best time. And then all of our scores from there on out are always based upon Sean. So Sean, essentially take his 5 minutes, divide that by 8. That's how many points I get out of a possible 100. I don't know off the top of my head what that is, but let's say it's 70 points. But I got 4th. So in CrossFit, I would probably get 85, 86 points. But now I've got 70 because it's based upon your score. So it does benefit the specialist to a degree in some aspects. Like if there's a workout that I can go out there and smash, then boy, oh boy, you better go out there and gap everyone. Because if you've got the opportunity to make up points, that can absolutely happen. The downside to it, which is ups and downs to all the ways to score it, of course, is happened actually this past weekend. The gentleman who got second place behind me, Aaron Clark, really awesome guy. I went into leading in day 3 in points. And some of the events, he beat me at 2 events in the final day out of 4 total events. But the problem was he beat me by 1 second on an event and 1 rep on another event. And so in the grand scheme of things, if it was CrossFit, boy gets 5 points, 95 points for me twice, right? So that's a 10-point spread there. Instead, because he only beat me by 1 second in an 8-minute event, he got 100 points and I got 99.3. So it doesn't really, you have to go out there and actually win and beat them by something. So I actually kind of like that scoring. I believe Crash Crucible, the Crucible event.
There's been some competitions that
they did it. Yeah,
it's cool. I like it.
Yeah.
So one of the other, go ahead, Tommy.
I was to say, but so with that in mind, the events, what do the events themselves actually look like? So running.
That's a great point. Yeah. So they're always based upon every event. We talked about the scoring, right? So scoring's up here. That's how do we figure out who's won the thing? Below that, every event will be either 2 different options. It'll be, and it's kind of similar to CrossFit. It'll either be time-based or point-based, where point-based, we can be synonymous in the CrossFit realm to an AMRAP perspective, right? To this day, we have not done a weight-based workout like we would do with the 1 rep max because it's not really our forte to a sport, for at least this sport. But we do either, again, time or points. So how that breaks down is we would do a workout. Let's say it's I have CrossFitters, so I got to make it simple here.
No, give us the actual thing. Give us an event. Tell us what an event.
Yeah, let's see here. Well, I don't want to make it overly complicated because you just get lost. So I'm going to make it like one aim. So okay, just say now we shoot 2 guns, right? We shoot pistol, rifle. For this sake of this argument, and we'll probably use this example throughout the rest of the conversation, so we can always kind of come back to this as our given. I'll make up a workout and we'll use it for the rest of this podcast. It makes it easy for everybody. Let's say we do, we're going to use only a pistol. Okay. The pistol's on us. It's not hot. It's not loaded, but we do have magazines for shooting down range on us, but the pistol again is not loaded. Let's say the firing line's way over there. It's 50 yards away and we're 50 yards over here. And we have a sandbag, 150-pound sandbag. So 3, 2, 1, go. Me and my 4 other best friends are going to do the same workout. We're going to put the sandbag over our shoulder. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. On the 5th rep, we're going to grab it in the stress carry position and take it 50 yards. We're going to drop it, and then we're going to shoot our pistol for a specified amount of rounds. Let's say and we can get into that in a second. Let's say we shoot 9 pistol rounds on target. And then after we shoot our 9 rounds on target, we will make sure our pistol's cleared. We'll holster our pistol. We'll stress carry that bag back to the firing line. The start line, 50 yards behind us. We'll drop the sandbag, and that's 1 round. And let's say we do that 3 times through. So then I would do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Stress carry, shoot, stress carry. That's round 2. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Stress carry, shoot my final magazine of pistol. Clear it, of course. Stress carry it back, and that's when time stops. So that's an example of a time-based workout. So how that would work is I, of course, at some point, pass the finish line. There are time caps, but let's say I finish under a time cap. Let's say I pass the finish line in 10 minutes. After everyone is done, all the other, because we compete 5 wide, so all the other 4 guys in my squad are completed shooting, and the line is declared cold, we'll send judges down range to pull targets. Now, we have targets that we shoot. Let's see if I can draw something real fast. So we essentially shoot like, you're used to like seeing targets like this for like shooting competitions.
Mm-hmm.
They're cardboard backers. We actually shoot targets that are stapled on them. Think like, this is my drawing skills. Think like we had this big piece of paper stapled on the cardboard backer. And what I'm looking for in this target is I have 3 shapes. I have 3 ugly, really ugly circles. Okay. So what I'm looking for is, remember I said, hey, you have 3 mags and we're going to shoot 9 pistol each round. So what I'm looking for is 9 hits of my pistol in this circle, and 9 in this circle, and 9 in this circle. Now, if you don't get 1 in the circle, that's okay. You don't have another round to try and replace it. You have a limited amount of rounds. But if you miss a shot, let's say you drop 9 and you drop 1 over here on the side over here, that's just a 10-second penalty when you're done. So you have your raw time. Took you 10 minutes, like I said. You have your raw time. We took your time. Good job, Tommy. You finished in 10 minutes. Now, when everyone's done, we're going to go pull the targets. We're going to come back to a scoring table. There's going to be a judge there that's going to count and say, okay, Tommy, looks like out of a possible 27 rounds, 9 in each circle, there are 3 circles, looks like you dropped 3. So it's 10 seconds per miss. So now your time, your total time is now 10 minutes and 30 seconds. And now you can imagine, as we add rifle, that adds more rounds to that perspective. You can imagine the ability now and the concept and the gamification that comes along with, well, when am I going to go really hard? And when am I going to shoot? What does the target look like? How fast am I shooting? How many rounds am I dropping? Because the first person that finishes the workout isn't always the first person that wins. Like in CrossFit, Frazier passes the finish line. Frazier won the workout, unless, of course, we go back and watch that he was pulling sandbags out of his ruck and throwing it on the ground. I'm just kidding. He wasn't doing that. But hey, I was behind him. I didn't see him do it. But he's. But
I think your name's going on a list somewhere, buddy.
Frazier's good, dude. He can put me on his list. So usually, first person, obviously in our sport, always that's that person who wins. But for us, once you pass the finish line, we still have to pull targets, say, okay, well, Tommy finished in 10 minutes and dropped 3 shots. But maybe Lauren did it in like 10 minutes and 15 seconds, but she only dropped 1. Therefore, she wins. Yeah. And then what would happen from there to make sure we all close this bow and connect it all up? We would convert your guys' time all the way to seconds. So we'd say, okay, how many seconds are in 10 minutes and 15 seconds with 1 miss that Lauren got? And that would be the winning time. And then we would take that, divide that by your time in seconds, Tommy, and that would give us our percentage of how much she would win by. And honestly, it wouldn't be very much, because she'd probably win by she'd get 100 points and Tommy would probably get like 98 or something like that.
So now, with all that being said, Jacob, and I was there, I saw in real action, and the biggest takeaway I had as we try to move the sport forward and get it on a bigger stage and include hopefully broadcast play-by-play color analysts, not knowing who wins in the moment is, I think, a challenge when it comes to storytelling and following the competition, especially for spectators who might be new to the sport. Do you see that there is a way to combat that challenge with the sport when you look at it from a broadcast level?
So great call out. Usually it takes people a little bit longer to notice that, but obviously you come from your perspective, and that leads to be like, well, how do I tell a story here, right? And so you're absolutely correct. And so it's been something that's been discussed by the previous owner, Jared, and then also still discussed by Nick to this day of like, okay, well, how do we, it's fun to watch. Don't get me wrong. It's still fun to watch, but and you can kind of when we're shooting, and just so Tommy and Sean understand, The pistol targets we're shooting are very close. You can kind of see those targets pretty well. And if Lauren's going super fast, but her target looks like she took a stinking 12-gauge shotgun to it and it wasn't a slug load, then you're like, she probably ain't gonna win, boys. You probably lose. But like, if it's like hits both targets kind of look the same, and again, the rifle target might be 50, 75, 100, 200 yards away. You can't see it. So I mean, Lauren could be putting, a pin-sized hole and she's doing great, or she could just be scattering all over the place and she's doing awful. So you're not really gonna know. And so it's a great call out, Lauren. I know Nick has definitely looked into, well, how do I have people spectate? Is this like CrossFit perspective, right? They each have a judge and they're counting reps and someone's got a clicker that's putting it into the system for the broadcast, right? So is there someone sitting there for every lane that is literally with a spotting scope staring at a target and saying, that's a miss, I'm going to click it. And maybe right below the lane has a +10, +20, +30 for every time that person. So then you can actually look at, now there won't be a running clock, but let's say you start your stopwatch and you look down range and you're like, okay, well, it looks like Jacob's ahead over here, but right below his lane number, it says, +3 minutes. He was like, okay, well, he's 3 minutes behind whatever this time is. And Lauren's over here and she's, a little slower than Jacob, but she's only got +30. Then that to you would be probably how you would figure out where they're at. That's the cheap, easy solution. I mean, heck, that's a solution still CrossFit Games this day that you just don't see it. The other option, of course, is like, what does it look like from an electronical perspective, which I think is just closed. He's talked about like CCTV, closed captioning and having to see that. But like, that's just now you got power.
Because that's kind of, isn't that what like the biathlon does in the Olympics? Because they have like a camera on the different
and the
targets.
little cameras on the
and you can see it.
That's all expensive.
And then, but in real time, because like it was kind of like the muscle up biathlon. You miss one, you got to run that penalty lap or ski. And then so that'd be the only way I think you could. You do that.
Yeah, the Olympics have the cameras on the targets, and it's. I don't know if it has to be CCTV, but like if you have a. You could have a RoboCam set up somewhere for the long range stuff that could zoom in and zoom out on targets that is covering halves of the range, and that then you have the clicker off of that. There's almost like a hybrid scenario of that. I think
that technology actually exists because there's a lot of PRS guys. PRS is precision long range shooting. There's a lot of long range shooters. Pardon me. When they shoot steel, you can hear it right, ding, when it comes back to the report. But when you're shooting paper to zero your rifle or whatever the reason might be, you're not going to hear that report. And so either you got to have a really good spotting scope, but if it's really far away, that's even impossible. They will actually do those almost like Bluetooth, but it'll send a signal. It's not going to be it's not going to be 4K, but it's enough fidelity that you can actually see, okay, I'm a little to the left. I need to change my dial. There's definitely some options for it. That's I think this year. And I told Nick this, and I told Lauren in person when I was with her in Nationals, is like comparative to last year where there was hardly any media done on the event, this year has been leaps and bounds better when it comes to the media behind the event. And so small steps here and there, small iterative solutions will always make the sport better. But you're absolutely correct, Lauren. Like, is there a way for us now for Lauren to, within 95% fidelity, say, oh, Jacob's in front or Tommy's in front in the moment? That'd be money, but that'll be difficult for sure.
I have questions regarding equipment, because first, equipment, just like usual implements that you see in events, yokes, sandbags,
sleds.
What else? Sleds,
farmer carry handles, fat bars, jerry cans, kettlebells, sandbags that are cylindrical, sandbags that are maybe longer with handles on them. Pretty much anything that GoRuck makes is pretty much going to be used.
Ropes.
I
forgot how fast you were at rope climbs until I watched you in that event. Like 2 to 1 for everyone. Insane.
I can do rope. I can still do fitness, guys. Crap, man. He's old. He's the
Sometimes we just forget.
Here comes old washed up Jacob Heppner.
We had a funny story. So I had well, I guess I would have saw you guys last year, probably there. Wadapalooza was on Panchik's team. Well,
yeah,
a Panchik team that turned out to be only one Panchik and then Jacob Heppner. You know,
right.
I'm honestly still waiting for my Christmas invite to the Panchik Christmas party. So Scott and Spencer and Sax, if you're listening, I'll send you my address. But we're at Wadapalooza. And I mean, I haven't competed in CrossFit in years at that point. And we're sitting in an athlete briefing, listening to at least some things have never changed. The stupid questions from the athletes that are asking, like, how far do I need to throw a wall ball up? And I'm sitting next to Hopper and Jason Hopper. And I had not ever competed with Jason Hopper before. Mm-hmm. And Hopper looks at me and goes, "Oh, what's up, old man? You come here to get whooped on?" And I immediately got like flustered. And I looked at him and I said, "Jason," I said, "you don't want me to come back in this sport because I'll probably come back and beat you, man. Like, you want me to continue shooting. You want that. Like, don't make fun of me." But anyways, yeah. So we can still do a little fitness. Obviously, it's a little bit different, like you said, right? It's we're not going to do any high skill gymnastics. Now, high skill gymnastics being the ability to have a high skill gymnastics background will help. For instance, Cody Anderson was out there. Cody, as we know, has a great gymnastics background. And we did an obstacle course race for one event, and Cody took second. He did really, really well for some of these obstacles being the first time he's ever seen. So we don't test it, but it is important to have. Very similar to like a snatch. Like, it's not like we're going to test the 1 rep max snatch, but does a snatch help with explosive power, picking up a sandbag and putting it over a yoke? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. My other question is about the pistols and the rifles and how, if at all, you're allowed to modify those, like what you're able to put on them to help you become a better shot.
Yeah. So,
what is allowed and what isn't?
Yeah, good question. So I'm gonna break your statement down. I am gonna caveat and say this. The only thing that's gonna make you could literally shoot with a stock Glock you bought at Walmart or the pawn shop down the road, and within reason, you can absolutely buy better equipment that'll make you a little bit better, but your biggest gain is just going to be in dry fire and practicing. So a lot of people think like, "Oh, well, I'm going to go off and throw $10,000 at a pistol and become a better shooter." No, you're just going to be a crappy shooter with a really nice gun.
It's like golf.
Exactly.
Good comparison.
Good comparison. So what do you need from the equipment wise for the firearm perspective? Or what can you run on them? We definitely have we actually voted as an elite division that now we can shoot red dots on our pistol. So if you've seen, like, if you ever watched John Wick, they run red dot magnifiers on your pistol. We can now run those in elite. In the past couple of years, we've only been able to run irons. So we had that changed. The main big thing that's like a no-no that we can't run is always comes down to the break, the muzzle device on the end of your rifle. There are certain muzzle devices that when your bullet is leaving the barrel, there are certain devices that will take all that exhaust from the bullet and shove it to the side really, really well. So your rifle won't rise. So it'll shoot like a 22. It'll go thump, thump, thump. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, with the rifle just going like this. The issue is all the exhaust coming off to the side. Because like I said, we're shooting 5 wide. So if Lauren's competing next to me and she's got a rifle with a brake on it and she's just railing shots, that exhaust is hitting me right in the freaking face, and it is uncomfortable, and it actually throws you off quite a bit, and it's just not fair. Like, if they were going to allow it, we would all compete with brakes and we'd all lose our hearing. So,
dang.
Yeah. But other than that, there's really not anything that's disallowed. Other than that, I'm not gonna get in depth on it.
But you did mention what equipment is required or needed. Like what is the baseline? So say I'm someone who maybe I'm a gun enthusiast, or maybe I'm a more fitness enthusiast that shoots guns with my cousins at Thanksgiving. What do I need to what's the baseline starter pack?
Yeah, so I'll use an actual specific example. So I was talking to Spencer Panchik for the past couple months, and he's probably going to come out here in November, December, and come spend a couple days, and he can work out in the barn. He's not going to lose any CrossFit shape. He can whoop up on me or get whooped by Olivia, and then we'll shoot guns. I'll teach. So my question is my question to Spencer was what do you have? Let's figure out what you need. And so he's got a pistol, and literally as long as he has got a pistol, as long as not a 22 pistol, right? He's golden. That'll work. You don't need to go out and buy anything, break the bank. You can go buy a $400 pistol, and there's a lot of people that compete with that, and that's totally fine. He'll need a specific amount of, he'll need at least like 4 to 5 magazines for that pistol, because we do sometimes do stages that maybe are 5 rounds of firing sequences. So you'll need 5 different magazines to make sure you're loaded up for all 5 rounds of that workout. And then he doesn't have a rifle. I'll probably transfer him a rifle and make sure I just get him one within reason when he shows up, send him home with one, like a care package. But you need a rifle with an optic on it, and then the associated amount of magazines that go along with that, usually 4 to 5. And then the optic on the top, you're going to run, can literally be anything. We see guys show up with just 1-buys with a flip up 3. You can run an LVPO, which is like a scope, goes from like 1 to 8 usually, magnification power. And then, of course, you need a plate carrier. All of us CrossFitters have a plate carrier. And the beauty of it is you don't need 20 pounds. You only need 15, because we run 15 pounds for males and 10 pounds for females. We get the other 5 pounds from the fact that we have a belt, a pistol, sometimes a rifle on us, and all of our associated magazines. And then as long as you have ears and eyes protection, you're golden, pony boy. You're good. You're off to the races.
Nice. When you talk rifle, you're talking like an AR. Is that what most people use in this?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, you can absolutely. I've actually pitched Nick there. I was like, man, you should thoroughly considering doing like one, I don't know, in Texas, and let's make it like a cowboy competition. Make it like lever action.
Yeah.
Lever action, right?
Yeah.
Right. Muskets might be a little bit too difficult for us, but but yeah. So you're gonna usually most of us are gonna have AR. Most of us are gonna have AR-15 rifles. We do have people that fly in from out of country. We have a lot of Canadians that compete. They are not allowed to own our version of the rifle, so they have their own Canadian compliant rifles. Other times, in the past have brought rifles and let them loan it for the weekend because they don't have the availability to own those where they're from.
Interesting.
When it comes to judging, something that I noticed is either the ROs, the range officers, or actually the athletes from previous heats are the one to judge the athletes. How exactly does that work? How do you guys ensure that there's validity in the reps? And because I know they're not actually counting the reps, they're just more or less making sure that the athlete is safe. Is that correct?
Yeah, so there are to a degree counting. You actually, good example, we had one workout where it was like, we had to flip a bag end over end and then time remaining do burpees over a bag, right? So if you notice the athletes had clickers in their hands, they are clicking it for burpees over a bag. But yeah, how it works is if I go and do this workout and I have a judge judging me, as soon as I'm done, time stops, we pull off our targets, yada, yada, yada. I'm going to take off all my gear, throw it on the ground, and then I'm going to make sure I have my ears and eyes, and I'm going to judge the next heat after me the same lane I'm in. So you judge the same person throughout the whole course of the whole weekend. That's to combat the fact of helping out volunteers. I actually think it's really smart because it's the concept of like, I'm not going to go out of my way to screw over Tommy Marquez because Tommy's going to know it. Tommy's going to go talk to somebody about it. And then it's just going to get around that I'm a cheater or whatever the case may be. It's a smaller community. And so we tend to treat each other with a load of respect. And really as an athlete, I am there counting to a degree for sure, but the athlete should also be, it's very similar to the rule set of the CrossFit Games and regionals, right? You should be able to count for yourself to 10 or 20. And the nice part is I wouldn't agree with the judging if we did subjective movements. We don't do any subjective movements where it's like, great example, kettlebell swings. Ain't no way we're doing kettlebell swings. That is the worst movement you're going to see subjective nature to judging on, or air squats, right? We're always going to do things that are very binary. Oh, did Lauren get that sandbag over the yoke? Well, did it go over the yoke bar or did it not? Like if it didn't, it works. Count it as a rep. If it didn't, that's not a rep. So we make it very simple. Did you touch the top of the rope climb cross member beam? That kind of perspective. It's very easy to count. The only other thing we are there to ensure as an athlete is just the safety of other people. So we have the clearing procedures that we do for pistol and rifle to make sure that we and the people around us are all safe, and all the athletes are there to help judge at the end, is to ensure the next heat is also doing the correct thing and the safe thing. And also, we got an RO there walking around, very similar to like if Boz was the head judge walking around, all the other judges on the floor. So if you got a crappy judge, or you've got an issue with what the judge said, or You got a safety concern, you just call the R over, and he or she takes care of it pretty quickly.
I like that, and it's very similar to most shooting sports, right? Like I've been able to shoot a couple of pistol matches, both like I-Core and Steel Challenge. My father-in-law competes at a national level with revolvers, and he likes to bring us along and do some of that stuff. And I do think that there's like almost like this buy-in from everybody there that like, hey, we're all in this kind of sport together, so we want to support each other in that endeavor, whether it's doing the little things like volunteering or, calling, the placement of shots on, depending on where the targets are. And at least in pistol matches, there's a range that you can fall as far as where your shot lands. But it also seems like it makes everyone better from that regard too. Like you're watching
Yeah. Because from my perspective, like, and Tommy nailed it on the head when he talked about, it reminds you of CrossFit like 13 years ago or whatever he said in the beginning. And you're correct, right? We're all there because we love the sport. We have no problem giving up of our time and sacrificing and helping up set up and tear down or help judge. Like, I'm not going there expecting that I'm just going to shoot and leave and someone's going to take care of me the whole time. We're there to help the sport out and help it grow because we all love it, because we all realize that if we don't have volunteers or if we don't help out correctly, the sport we know and love that we travel around for and have made friends or made money or have pulled in sponsors, all that perspective will just walk away. And so the beauty of what Nick has created, in my mind, or that Nick has fostered up to this point, in my mind, has very followed and is synonymous in its road, its track record as CrossFit did, where it's like, hey, we're all here to help each other out. We're a big community. We want the sport to grow. Let's see it kind of move further. Now, CrossFit had the ability to grow faster. One, because it's more spectator friendly, and also you don't have firearms involved. It makes it kind of simple too.
Yeah, that was actually going to be my next question. Is that given the the hot button issue that firearms are in this country, and especially assault weapons, how do you grow the sport to where, and I don't want to say mainstream, but to where like maybe you have a broadcast deal, or more people are getting involved? Because it seems like that is, to your point, there might be a lot of people, sponsors, networks, whatever, who would balk at that.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the biggest thing is, let me pause for a second, make sure I answer this correctly.
If you don't mind, I want to add in something there, because one thing that I think stood out to me from my personal experience, like going and shooting a match for the first time, is as soon as you mention guns, there's a stigma that revolves around safety, right?
Yep.
And the first match that I shot, the number one thing I came away with was the commitment to safety, the safe handling and operating of firearms in a way that was conducive to the sport, but not anything out of the ordinary in terms of like danger or threat to anyone, even at a novice level, who is there for just a weekend to do something, for the first time outside of their comfort zone.
Yep, absolutely. So yeah, let me answer Sean's question first. So you don't know what you don't know. So I understand, we're not here to argue the stigma placed upon firearms in this country. That's going to exist probably till this country ceases to exist at some point. And it is ingrained heavily in our society. And so you're never going to win an argument on Facebook. But what I have found is the personal connection you can have with someone. I'm not going to convince Lauren of something across Instagram. I'm not going to convince Lauren of something across Facebook. Mm-hmm. But what I can do is I can have Lauren show up, show her what my sport is, whether it be CrossFit or tactical games or whatever. Because again, just like you said, there might be astigmatism, that's eyes. There might be a stigma placed upon firearms, but there also at one point, and still is to a degree, a stigma placed upon CrossFit. So you showing up and me loving on you and say, hey, come hang out with me, let's hang out, learn some more, I'll show you my sport, really works. Prime example. I had I'm not going to say his name, but he wouldn't care. I had a guy show up during 2020, during COVID. He was in college and COVID shut his college down. And so he was a local guy, didn't know who he was, but he knew, for lack of better words, that my local home gym was not going to be shut down for COVID. And he wanted a place to work out. And he was coming back to Kansas City. So he hit me up and said, hey man, can I come work out with you? And I was like, absolutely, stinking lootly. Well, he came out and worked out with me quite a bit. And over the course of getting to know him over a few months, he was very vocal about the fact that people should not own firearms. And I've never really cared about, you guys all have your own opinions. And as long as you don't trample on my opinion and tell me I can't do something, I don't care. And so over the course of time, he actually was like, hey man, I would love if you taught me this. Like if I just learned something. And I was absolutely okay with that. Because I had asked him multiple times, like, hey man, why don't you show up? Because like the most dangerous person is a person that might have access to a gun who doesn't know how to use it. I mean, prime example is when you don't instruct your children that you have firearms in the house and instruct them in the safety of it and not to touch it in that case. And so had him out to my barn, spent a day with him, teaching him for a few hours. Number one, the dude was one of the fastest learners for shooting I have ever seen. Really good by the end of it. At the end of it, I said, hey man, what do you think? He goes, dude, I like he could tell it was like a little bit different. It was like, I don't think everyone should own one, which again, I don't care. Yeah. He's like, but I understand why this is so much fun and why you want to compete in this and the beauty of this, because we went through a crap ton of safety. I'm going to make sure he understands like this thing's loaded, no matter if you don't think it's loaded or it is loaded. Hey, here's a medical plan in case, unfortunately, one of us does get shot for some reason. We want to make sure there's no loss of life. And so we covered all of that. And then he's been to many events since then and realized like, it's just different. You can't judge a group. And, same thing our mom told us, right? Don't read the cover of the book and think that book sucks. Read the book and find out that, man, Lord of the Rings was actually a really good book.
Oh, man. Well, you make interesting points because for me, I don't necessarily think that I had an idea of what the tactical games is going to be like, because from a consumer standpoint, there's not a ton to consume over the internet. You can read the rule book, you can watch Instagram clips from athletes, but on YouTube, there really isn't that much to see. And I didn't know what to expect when I arrived, but the safety that everybody takes so seriously, the inclusiveness to learn, to help others. I mean, I truly was blown away at the standards that the sport has taken. And I'm just curious, going from, CrossFit with just fitness to tactical games with functional fitness and firearms, what that evolution or experience has been like for you from one style of training to now something else that does include firearms, and the safety of it is so much more extreme.
Yeah. So I'll talk about the community first. It's like, so you tend to think, and I don't blame you for thinking this, you tend to think, I'm going to go hang out with a bunch of redneck hillbillies with a bunch of guns in the middle of Texas, and we're going to shoot guns, right? They're going to be saying things I don't agree with. They're going to be flying flags I don't agree with, yada, yada, yada. It's when you show up that you realize that this is like the most diverse community you've probably been a part of, like second to maybe CrossFit, right? All different walks of life. I guarantee you there are a percent of that population that probably doesn't want a whole lot of people to own guns, but they want to own them for the shooting perspective because they understand they love competing in it because it is a good skill to learn. And so it's a really, really great, diverse, and like you said, inclusive, I know we're doing buzzwords here, community that really is there to really teach you and teach you how to work well and to compete better. It reminds me of like the story back in the day of Annie not being able to do muscle ups in the back office or the back room, getting ready to go out there to compete, right, to do Amanda. And the same thing happened to me showing up for the first time is I showed my first competition. I didn't know how to zero my rifle. My rifle was not zeroed. Zeroed meaning my optic, where I pointed my optic at, my bullet was not going. And it was an operator error. It was definitely not doing the same direction. And the gentleman that showed up and taught me and explained to me how to zero my rifle a day before I was competing was the guy I was competing in the lane next to the next day. And so it's that beauty of like, we're here to help each other out. I don't care where you come from. I don't care what you believe in, who you love, whatever the case may be. We're just there to have a good time and compete. Yeah.
Oh, if there's a person, I don't know, we'll call her my wife, who is interested in maybe competing in this, where would people, like, where do people start?
Well, if you type in, Google flights and you put MCI, it's Kansas City International. You can just fly out here, send your wife out here to train with me for a day. Yeah,
I'll do it.
Yeah. So send her out with Spencer. Lauren nailed it on the head with like back in the day, there wasn't a lot of information. There's a lot more information now on the sport. I will absolutely send you guys a link to this, but I run a free Facebook group where I put out I don't know if Lauren, if you're in the group, but I put a crap ton of information and videos in there on a daily basis.
Oh, great.
For people, because I quickly realized, I'll say it to you guys later, but I quickly realized that the sport was great. Don't get me wrong. It's freaking amazing. But there wasn't a lot of information on people who are new to the sport because I went through it and I didn't know how to train. I trained wrong for like 6 months and I quickly realized, well, I was wasting my 6 months. And I thought to myself, man, I could really help people out if I just sped the process up for them. And so I'm the admin of a group that I run. I also do all the online programming for the tactical games. So delineation wise, I don't do any in-person programming. That would not be fair. That'd be like a rich program for the CrossFit Games, but I do all the online programming to prepare for the tactical games because I come from the fitness background and I also have a complement person to me that does all the shooting training. So we combine that and help them out to get them ready and prepared. So when they show up, they do better than they think and they actually have a good time. Because the worst thing is when someone shows up and thinks, I knew how to train for this. I've wasted 6 months. I don't want to do this anymore because I suck. We don't want that. We want you to show up and be like, you're going to suck, but you want to feel prepared to suck. Right. If that makes sense.
You want to suck at the appropriate level, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, Jason Kleba is getting into it too. Like he's
Jason hung out with me in California when I was out there teaching in San Francisco at a SWAT department. And he was out there. We taught him a little bit there for movement. I know he's been hanging out with Castro quite a bit shooting. And Castro's obviously a GM, very good shooter, and also good at PRS. And then Jason's also been out in Texas and hung out with some of the buddies that I've competed with and learned from them too. So I've taught open invite. I've told, who have I told so far? Bailey has been interested. All the Panchik boys pretty much. Kalipa, a couple girls. And I've always told them, man, open invite. You come out to my place, I'll bunk you up, I'll feed you. We'll shoot guns. We'll do workouts. We'll have a good time. Giddy up, boys.
We need to go. We need to do this. Like I think that'd be fun. We just go crash at Heppner's place.
I would love to do that.
Yeah.
I just have a couple like non-tactical games related questions.
Well, I have one quick one. If I go to the Tactical Games website and I go down to divisions, there's a men's elite division, but I don't see your face on it. If you're going to be the Rich, if you're going to be the Rich Froning and Annie Thor's daughter of this sport, the first multi-time national champion, you're going to start to rack them up on this side. Why can't we hook it up with your smiling mug?
Win twice also?
Yeah, Jared. So right now there's a guy who's won twice before me. Because I got second in 2021 to him, and then I took first and then took first. So he's got 2 first places. So the running joke between me and Jared is we're tied 2-2. So next year would be the deciding factor. Or someone else comes in, takes it from us, and robs all of our glory. So
well, I want to see your face on the website. That's all I'm asking.
I will tell Nick. I'll let him know and be like, hey, you better get my mug up there quick.
Yeah, man. Someone's going to be on the business end of a sternly written letter here.
I actually do have another question.
Okay.
When it comes to prize purses, the sport doesn't have one. Of course, you won when I do the quick back of the napkin math, as Tommy calls it, of the prizes that you won. It was probably between, I don't know, $5,000 and $8,000 worth of equipment, stuff from sponsors, things like that. Do you think that this sport should eventually move into a system where there are prize purses? Or do you think that the kind of sparkle of the sport and the community-based magic of it all, I don't know, that sounds kind of cheesy, but you know what I mean. Do you think that that takes something away from the sport if eventually there is money on the line?
What's the downside to putting money up against something? Other than my example for Monopoly, right? My example earlier was Sean cheated at Monopoly because he was hiding hotels in his keister, right? Okay, so
easy.
I mean, I don't know. There was that.
No one can prove that. No one wants to search either. So.
I was going to make a joke, but I can't now. Well, I mean, look at it. There was that scandal, I think it was last year, where those dudes got caught stuffing their fish, right? In the fishing tournaments.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
They were actually stuffing
I don't know about that one.
like already like cut fillets of that same fish into the fish that they caught and like trying to hide them.
Oh my God.
And they found out, and like they had that. Now, granted, that's an extreme, and those guys were obviously scumbags, and everybody was pissed about it, and they basically got ostracized. And I imagine when firearms are involved, like, you know, like there's a general consensus that nobody wants to tarnish that already. So I don't know. I guess anytime you inject money into something, there are going to be people that are maybe a little bit more, I don't know, skirting the line.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to happen no matter what sport we're going to do, right? I think, and again, don't take my word for biblical, but I'm pretty sure we've had people in the past cheat. I mean, think about it from this perspective. Like, we weigh our plate carriers on day one, right? We wear our plate carriers 15 pounds from me throughout the whole weekend. Well, not when you're resting, but when you're competing. And there are certain events we don't wear. Obstacle course is a prime example of that. But, you know, you're definitely going to have people that are going to take their weights out of their plate carrier. And those people at some point are going to get caught. Like, it's just going to happen. There are definitely people that will load more rounds in their chamber to shoot more rounds on target because it gives them higher opportunity, probability of hit. That definitely exists. But remember, we always have an athlete judging us. Now, could you long play it and be like, I'm going to make sure Lauren's in the heat in front of me and she's going to judge me and I paid her $100 and she doesn't care? Sure, that could definitely happen. But like, I tend not to look at, I'm a glass half full kind of guy. I'm not going to look at it like, I'm not going to look at the perspective of everyone's out to cheat, right? Mm-hmm. So going back to your question, Lauren, I've actually had this conversation with Jared, the previous owner of the Tactical Games. And again, I don't own part of the Tactical Games. I help program for them. I don't know the financial disposition of the company personally, and have no part in that. But I do think if you put a prize purse on it, you will bring more people in. That's just a given fact. You already have a sport that is the fastest growing in the nation for shooting sports. And to my knowledge, to my idiot rookie knowledge, I don't think there's an other shooting sport exists out there with a decent prize purse. It might be like $2,000, but like nothing decent, right? And so, yeah, I think if you, let's just throw a number out there. If you're like, hey, Lauren, you show up and first place gets $20,000 for showing up. Again, this is not CrossFit Games level, but if you put that on there, you're definitely going to get some eyeballs. They're going to be like, you know what? Like, I probably got a shot at that. Like, I'm going to give that a go, or that's interesting to me. And you'll probably bring in some other names into the sport that might not at that point have been interested in it before, for instance. So I definitely think it could grow the sport for sure.
How's Olivia Kerstetter doing?
Smashing me like normal, pretty much. She was actually sick last night. Oh, here you go. I love telling stories. She was actually sick. She was sick. I just got back on Monday, and she was under the weather. It was I got really cold here for a while, so whatever. And I've been trying to get her. Well, to clarify, my wife and I have been trying to get her to watch. I'm not going to say it's like my most favorite genre series of movies, but it's probably, I'll give it top 10. Okay. Tommy's going to lose his mind when I say this. Twilight is not as bad as you think it is. Okay. The Twilight series. Tommy's like in the stream right now.
I'm a fan.
So
listen, I'll confess, I read one of the books just as like, I got to see what this is all about.
Yeah.
You two are movie buffs and you haven't seen the Twilight series?
No desire to watch that.
I'm not saying I haven't seen it. Okay. I never once said I haven't seen it. I'm just
his respect for me just took a note.
Okay, so anyway, trying to get to watch Twilight.
Yeah, no so I was like,
judgment.
No judgment. I said, hey, I've been trying for weeks, months to get you to watch Twilight. You're sick. Go watch it. So last night she's sick and I was texting her. I was like, hey, did you watch Twilight? She's like, yeah, I really love it. It's really good. And again, got to be Team Jacob all the way. Jacob was the better looking guy, a part of the group.
I was going to ask you what team you were.
Of course, it's Team Jacob.
My God.
Right. So given fact. So, anyways, I'm gonna ask her. She's been going on a streak watching them. So she'll be off tonight, jumping in the ice bath tonight. And I'm gonna be like, hey, so how far are you in this series? You finish them all already in 2 days? She's doing well. She obviously didn't compete at Rogue. I think it was a great decision on her part. She kind of asked for a couple of hours' opinion, and I was like, you're only a senior once. Like, you're going to football games. Enjoy your senior year. Like, you don't need that extra stress of going to Rogue and going off there. Go to your football games, enjoy your senior year, do that crap, and then when you're done, you can go do Wadapalooza. I think she's going to do Wadapalooza. I don't know if it's individual or on a team. I haven't discussed that yet with her, but she's got her own plan, so she's doing well.
Yeah.
And then my final question is, and you don't have to go into depth on this, but what did you think of Ahsoka?
Oh, that was going to be my question. Dang it.
What did I think of Ahsoka? Dude, first of all, have you read all the books that deal with Abeloth?
Yeah, yes. Some of them. That's a pull. That's a
Fate of the Jedi. I think is it called Fate of the Jedi? Is that what it's called?
I haven't thought of that in a while, but yes, I have read those.
They're tying those in. That's getting tied in. Guaranteed.
Wow,
They're taking everything from stupid Disney came in and was like, mark those all as like old or what they call
that was a biggest mistake they ever made.
Yeah, non-canon.
Legends.
Right?
Legends.
Legacy.
Yes.
Legends, yes, thank you. Legends. And the tale of the whatever that's called, the Fate of the Jedi series with that arc that they also obviously use that book series to also fund into Clone Wars and all the other books that have used that character. They're bringing that in. I didn't care about Ahsoka as much because all I cared about was, of course, the first time we did an interview and they finally brought Thrawn on the big screen. I said, here I am 13 years later. Thank God. He was terrible, but whatever.
Yeah, I thought he kind of looked like COVID Thrawn. You know, like he hadn't been working out and just sort of a little soft. You know, he's a little softer than I wanted my Thrawn to be.
I don't think he was soft. I just think they took his IQ and divided it by 9.
I would agree with that too.
I was like, I don't need you to be buff. I just need you to be a mastermind.
It seemed like they were starting to try and I'll say this. It seemed like they started us with the kiddie spoon of giving us intelligence, right? Like there were a couple points where like they start to let him get into like all right, like the tactics of why he's making these decisions, but it almost always stops short of but let's leave an opportunity open, right?
Which that he never did.
Yeah,
which was
he was kindergarten Thrawn. You know, I think they were drugging him. I don't know, but it was that character definitely deserves a little more. It deserves a lot more.
I would. Okay,
in my mind,
we're on the same page on that one.
That's a good character. That's a great character. If you do
Lauren, your thoughts?
Her eyes glazed.
No, I wasn't listening to any of that. That's when I tuned out.
Oh man! All right. Well, on that note, Jacob, listen, man, it's always great talking to you, and congratulations on winning the tactical games again for the second straight year. And we may take you up on just showing up at your house and be like, "Hey, man, we're here to train."
Hey,
Let's go.
You call.
I'm 100%.
You call me ahead of time. You let me know when. I will have everything. You don't need to bring anything. You can bring nothing. You just yourselves and some clothes, preferably.
Okay.
And you show up, and I'll make sure I'll outfit everyone, and I'll have a videographer here, and we'll film it, and I'll get you some good content from it.
That'd be awesome.
Oh,
we may have to do that. So
let's start a text chain after this.
Let's go. Here we go. Brody. All right. Jacob, thanks so much for doing this. Really appreciate it. Thank you to our sponsor, strongest.app. You can download it now for both Apple and Android, as one of our patrons has informed us. Check it out. It's really cool. A lot of cool bells and whistles in there, and Matthew is continuing to work on it. So it's free. Strongest.app. For Jacob Heppner, thanks again, man, for doing this. Appreciate it. Lauren Khalil and Tommy Marquez. I'm Sean Woodland. Take care of each other. Be better, and we'll talk to you guys next time.
See you guys.